She thought she could humiliate Jasmine on Live TV. But then this happened. It started like every other Tuesday on Capitol Hill. Bright sun, tourists gathering outside the Library of Congress, and cameras setting up early in hearing room 4B of the Russell Senate Office Building. No one expected history to unfold that morning, not even Jasmine Crockett. Inside, the usual players were already in place. Congressional staff rushed around with folders and coffee. Reporters adjusted their mics. But Jasmine? She just sat there, quiet, reviewing a single worn-out folder on her lap. She didn't need to say anything. The silence around her had weight. Across from her, Marjorie Taylor Greene had the smirk of someone who believed she already won. Dressed in a striking red jacket, leaning back like it was all a performance, she whispered something to a staffer that made them laugh. She was here to make a statement. Jasmine was here to make a difference. Chairman Rowley gavelled the session to order, and just like that, the hearing began. Greene started loud. That was her style. "Let's talk about accountability, Miss Crockett," she sneered, holding up a printed article. "Your office has been flagged for financial mismanagement 2 years ago. Care to explain?" The room shifted. Some staffers looked up. Jasmine didn't flinch. She turned one page in her folder, looked directly at Greene, and said nothing. But then, slowly, calmly, she leaned forward. "That report," Jasmine said, her voice clear as crystal, "was retracted within 48 hours. And you know that." Greene rolled her eyes. "Convenient." Jasmine's fingers gently tapped the folder. "I'd be careful, Congresswoman," she said, "because I wasn't planning to bring this today. But since you opened that door..." She pulled out a document. Nothing flashy, no color, no red ink, just a simple line at the top. MTG Communications, Jan 6 briefing draft, private. For a second, even the C-SPAN camera zoomed in. "This," Jasmine said, holding it up, "is an internal memo. It's your handwriting, your email header, your staff CC'd, and this line here," she paused, "we should stick to the Antifa narrative. Let Crockett's side scramble with the rest." The room froze. Greene's smile faded. "That's taken out of context," she snapped. Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. "Then explain the context," she said softly. That's when it started. The unraveling. One sentence, that's all it took. From that moment, you could feel it. The air changed. Reporters leaned forward. A Fox News producer silently mouthed, "Is this real?" behind her laptop. People knew. Something big had just shifted. Let me ask you something. If you were in Jasmine's seat, would you have stayed quiet or done what she did? Let us know in the comments. And if you're still watching right now, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. This is only the beginning. The moment she realized Jasmine wasn't backing down, Marjorie Taylor Greene stared at the page like it was something crawling. She glanced at her aides, expecting a whisper, a rescue, anything. But they were frozen too, because everyone knew Jasmine didn't bluff. Jasmine slid the memo across the desk. "You called this private, Congresswoman. You marked it as non-discoverable. That usually means one thing: someone didn't want it traced." Greene chuckled, but it didn't sound right. "You're playing politics." "No," Jasmine replied, calm and measured. "I'm playing the truth." Behind them, the room was quiet. Too quiet. You could hear a reporter typing. Every keystroke echoed. No one scrolled their phone now. They were watching a woman unravel in real time. Greene tried to pivot. "You're clearly trying to weaponize internal communication." "That was a draft, nothing more." Jasmine raised one eyebrow. "That draft was forwarded to 4 people. 2 of them have already provided statements confirming its use in a planning session. Do I need to read their names?" Greene sat back. "You're crossing a line." "No," Jasmine said again, firmer this time. "You crossed it when you tried to drag my name through the mud with false reports. This is me refusing to play dead." Outside on Twitter, clips of the confrontation had already gone viral. A trending tag was forming. #Crockett Receipts. Inside, the press box was buzzing. MSNBC updated their lower third banner mid-hearing. "Breaking: Marjorie Crockett reveals MTG internal memo on Jan 6 narrative." And still Jasmine wasn't done. She turned to the chairman. "With permission, I'd like to enter supplemental documentation from my office. Chairman Rowley nodded without hesitation. Proceed. Another page came out, a screenshot, this time from a Signal chat. Need to make sure Jasmine's district looks like chaos in the next media cycle. Greene's jaw dropped. That's fake. Jasmine leaned in. It came from your verified device. Same encrypted identifier, same timestamp. Unless you'd like to accuse your own chief of staff of spoofing your phone. Greene opened her mouth and closed it again. Somewhere in the back, a camera operator whispered, "She's not going to make it out of this." Let's pause here for a second. Have you ever been blamed for something just because someone thought you were too quiet to fight back? Share your story in the comments. You're not alone, and don't go anywhere. This is only beginning. It gets deeper. She thought it was over. Until Jasmine pulled out one more document. For a few seconds, Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't speak. She just sat there blinking. It was like her system was rebooting in front of everyone. The Marjorie who dominated cable news, who bulldozed every panel she joined, she was gone. What was left was someone who never expected to be cornered. And Jasmine? She was just getting started. There's more, she said, almost like an afterthought. The committee stirred. A few members looked toward Chairman Rowley as if to ask, is this still a routine hearing? But it wasn't. Not anymore. Jasmine opened the final tab in her folder, a narrow yellowed envelope, the kind that didn't look like it belonged in this decade. She held it up. This letter, she said quietly, was mailed to my office anonymously 2 weeks ago. No return address, just one sentence on the front. For when she lies again. You could feel the air freeze. Greene shifted uncomfortably. Jasmine pulled out the single sheet inside. It's a copy of an email thread dated December 20th, 2020, weeks before January 6th. She placed it in front of the chairman, then slid another copy to Greene. I'll read one line only, she said. She's not a threat, not yet. Let's paint her as unstable and let social media do the rest. Jasmine didn't blink. The she in question? That's me. Someone in the room gasped. Greene shook her head. That's not mine. You don't even know who wrote that. Don't I? Jasmine said, tapping the header. The metadata had Greene's senior comms advisor listed. Same internal server, same ID, same time zone, same tone. For the first time, Greene looked genuinely worried. Not performative, not defensive, worried. Because this wasn't about winning an argument anymore. This was about losing something she didn't think could be taken from her. Control. Outside the chamber, reporters scrambled. CNN, NBC, even conservative blogs, they were all covering it live. Rep. Crockett drops internal letter implicating MTG's team. The headlines were writing themselves. And still, Jasmine didn't yell. She didn't need to. She looked around the room and said softly, this isn't just about me. It's about what happens when someone speaks too loudly, too proudly, or just refuses to sit down. Then she turned directly to the cameras. How many more of you have been told to keep quiet when you knew the truth? If that hit home, tell us in the comments. We want to hear your story too. And trust me, you haven't seen the worst part yet. Stay tuned. The room went silent when she said one word. Chairman Rowley leaned forward. Congresswoman Greene, do you wish to respond? But Greene didn't answer. She just stared at the letter in front of her like it might vanish if she waited long enough. And then Jasmine said one word that changed everything. Cover up. The whole room stopped breathing. I'm not talking about a smear campaign anymore, Jasmine continued. I'm talking about coordination, denial, targeted character destruction. And the worst part is, it didn't even start with me. She pulled out a new folder. This is a list of 7 other representatives who received nearly identical anonymous emails. All of them were vocal. All of them were women of color. All of them were later attacked in a coordinated media wave. Gasps filled the space. You didn't just come for me. Jasmine has said, you tried to silence a whole generation of voices, and you did it with intent. Marjorie finally spoke. You're twisting everything. You have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. That's where you're wrong, Jasmine cut in. I know exactly what goes on behind the scenes. And now so does everyone watching. And they were watching. On the street outside the Russell Building, A small crowd had formed around a mounted TV showing the live hearing. People had stopped mid-commute to watch a woman, their woman, speak truth in real time. Inside, staffers who had once walked past Jasmine in the hallway without a second glance were now frozen in place, whispering her name. Then Brenda, Jasmine's longtime aide, slid over one final page. Jasmine looked at it and paused. She didn't read it out loud. Instead, she looked at the chairman. "I'd like to submit this last document under sealed review," she said. "It includes personal threats, one sent directly to my home address." The chairman went pale. "Approved." Marjorie tried to laugh it off. "This is drama. You're just putting on a show." But Jasmine stayed calm. "Funny," she said. "I thought you'd appreciate theater. After all, you helped write the script." At that moment, someone in the audience stood up and clapped once. Security turned to silence him, but then another person joined, and another. Soon the room was filled with people rising, not cheering, just standing, quiet, firm, unshakable. Have you ever witnessed someone stand alone against a machine and not blink? Drop in the comments, because silence is no longer an option, and no, it's not over yet. She pulled one last receipt, and everything crumbled. 15 minutes passed. 15 long, camera-filled, breath-holding minutes since Jasmine Crockett dropped the surveillance logs. During that time, Greene hadn't said a word. Her hands fidgeted under the table, and her aides looked like they'd just been told the ship was sinking, and there weren't enough lifeboats. Chairman Rowley called for a recess, but Jasmine didn't move. She sat still, eyes fixed forward, like a storm waiting to break. And then, something unusual happened. One of Greene's former staffers, a young woman named Lindsay Myers, stood quietly from the gallery. She wasn't supposed to be there. She hadn't been listed in the visitor log, but no one stopped her. She walked up to the clerk, handed over a sealed flash drive, and whispered, "This needs to be played, now." Whispers exploded like gunfire. Rowley looked to Jasmine. She nodded once. "Let it play." The screen behind the committee table flickered on. Grainy at first, then clearer. It was security camera footage. Time-stamped. Dated January 2nd, 4 days before the Capitol riot. There was Greene, in the same red blazer, talking quietly in a hallway near her office. The audio was fuzzy, but then a phrase came through. "Once the noise starts, we pivot to law and order. Make them the radicals. Jasmine won't be ready. She never is." You could hear the audience react. A quiet, stunned gut punch of a gasp. Then another voice in the video, unidentified, asked, "What if someone pushes back?" And Greene replied, "They won't. Who's going to listen to her?" Jasmine didn't blink. She didn't even flinch. She just leaned slightly forward and whispered, "You should have." For several seconds, no one said anything. Even the air felt heavier. Outside the building, a small group of protesters had already gathered. The live stream had jumped to 500,000 viewers. The comments section on every platform was flooded with one phrase. She never raised her voice, but she never backed down. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated just because of who you are or where you come from? Tell us below. Someone out there needs to hear your story, and keep watching. Because what Jasmine reveals next wasn't just about politics. It was about justice. She dug so deep. Even her enemies didn't see it coming. The moment Jasmine Crockett lifted that final folder, the room went silent. Not the kind of silence you notice, but the kind you feel. No one shifted, no one whispered, no one even touched their phone. Because everyone in that chamber could sense it. The ground was about to break. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't glance around for impact. She simply unfolded a timeline and laid it flat on the table like a quiet indictment of everything that had gone unseen. "This isn't about me anymore," she said softly. "It's about the pattern." She tapped a single point on the chart. A date, December 2020. Then she tapped 6 more, of them spaced within weeks of critical committee hearings involving prominent women of color. All of them followed by carefully timed leaks, coordinated social media smears, and targeted misinformation. 7 names, 7 smear campaigns, and one common thread, she said. They all started within 24 hours of challenging someone in this room. Gasps didn't erupt. Instead, there was that dreadful hush, the kind that settles when people realize they're watching something too big to stop. She pulled up a digital scan, a group chat called Noise Control DC Ops. Admin names were hidden, but the messages weren't. Crockett's next, hit her hard, make her unstable in the media, use the chaos narrative again. It sticks. She's too clean, manufacture the mess. If she pushes back, bury her in noise. Jasmine looked at the chairman. We traced the burner phone connected to this account. The number was linked to a campaign device used in Ms. Greene's office. It was later found dumped behind the cafeteria entrance at Rayburn, still logged in. Marjorie Taylor Greene clenched her jaw. Her aides looked down. But Jasmine wasn't done. Brenda, Jasmine's longtime aide, quietly handed her one last page. Fragile, pieced together from shredded remains. Taped. Scarred, but readable. Jasmine held it up to the light. It read, if she doesn't back down, distract. If she fights, destroy. If media asks, deny involvement. She said nothing for a moment. She didn't need to. Then came the line that people would quote again and again in interviews, articles, and documentaries. You didn't think anyone would dig this deep because you never expected someone like me to be holding the shovel. Greene exhaled sharply, a forced smirk. This is a setup. You're spinning. No, Jasmine replied. I'm remembering, I'm connecting, and now the world is too. Outside the chamber, crowds were gathering. Protesters, supporters, students, retired voters, all holding phones, all tuned into the same moment. Inside, cameras zoomed in on Jasmine's face. She leaned into the mic. Have you ever been underestimated, not because of your mistakes, but because of your identity? Comment below. Someone out there needs to hear what you've survived. And she wasn't done yet, because the last piece, the final proof, wasn't a document. It was a voice, and it would change everything. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just ended it. Chairman Rowley looked exhausted, not in the way someone looks after a long day, but the kind of weariness that comes from watching truth collide with power and knowing it can't be ignored anymore. Congresswoman Crockett, he said quietly, you may conclude. Jasmine didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into the inner pocket of her blazer and pulled out a small, unmarked USB drive. It was barely visible between her fingers, yet it felt heavier than anything she'd held that day. This, she said, was mailed to my district office in Dallas. No return address, no note, just a label that read, use only when it matters. She handed it to the clerk. The room dimmed as the screen came alive, and audio began to play. No video, just a black screen, and a voice, Marjorie Taylor Greene's voice. Calm, cold, confident. We keep her loud, angry. The moment she looks out of control, we win. Feed the right headlines and let the machine run it. No emails, no paper trail. Don't tie it back to us. The room was silent. Even the journalists who had spent the past hour furiously typing had stopped. Some simply stared at their screens. Some stared at the floor. Because this wasn't speculation anymore. It was a confession. Greene didn't speak. She couldn't. Her face had gone pale, her hands motionless on the table. And Jasmine? She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just leaned slightly toward the microphone and spoke her final words. You thought if you kept the truth quiet long enough, it would disappear. But truth doesn't vanish. It waits, and when it's ready, it doesn't knock. It walks in. Rowley tapped his gavel. This committee is entering formal legal review. Materials will be referred to DOJ oversight. This session is adjourned. But the story wasn't over. Outside, thousands had gathered around TV screens and smartphones. Some were crying. Some were holding their kids' hands. Some were whispering Jasmine's name like a prayer. She walked out of that hearing room with no entourage, no celebration, no victory pose. Just silence, well. But it wasn't empty. It was the kind of silence that ends rumors, shatters narratives, and rewrites the script. Back in her district office, Jasmine sat quietly in front of a window and watched the sunset. Brenda walked in behind her. They're calling you a hero, she said gently. Jasmine shook her head. I'm not a hero, she replied. I just refuse to be erased. Later that night, the final moment, just 37 seconds of Jasmine sitting still as the audio played, hit 17 million views in under 10 hours. No commentary, no filter, just truth unedited. And let me leave you with this. Have you ever been told to lower your voice just so someone else's lie could feel louder? Tell us in the comments. Your story matters. And if Jasmine Crockett's voice shook something inside you, even for a moment, subscribe, because this wasn't just a hearing, it was a reckoning.